I've had a lot of people request the band Dishwalla, who were best known for the song Counting Blue Cars. But whatever happened to the group after their big hit song? That's what we're going to explore in today's video. The early days of Dishwalla began when drummer George Pendergast met vocalist and guitarist J.R. Richards at a local music store in their hometown of Santa Barbara during their teenage years. They would add bassist Scott Alexander, guitarist Rodney Browning, and keyboardist Greg Kolonek. Despite each member of the band being influenced by different musical tastes, that did little to stop the musicians from starting a band. Pendergast was born and bred on bands like Led Zeppelin and Mötley Crüe, while Richards was into groups like Queen and New Order, while Alexander was into funk and Browning loved Britpop and classic rock. They would become regulars at the college bar circuit around Santa Barbara and played alongside bands like Ugly Kid Joe and Toad the Wet Sprocket. Both bands I've previously done videos on. The links are down below. Before becoming Dishwalla, the band underwent several name and style changes, first using the moniker Life Talking, and then Dish, and then finally Dishwalla. When they went by the name Life Talking, they were a synth pop band with drummer George Pendergast admitting to the LA Times that was completely different than what we do now. We don't use synthesizers as much now, plus we have a real bass player. Also, we write songs as a band now and not on keyboards. The band would eventually change their name to Dish and would morph into a rock band, combining hip-hop, funk, and early 90s sounding guitars. Then the band got a rude awakening. They would receive a cease and desist letter from a band who already had dibs on the name Dish from North Carolina. They would move on to their third name, Dishwalla, with keyboardist Greg Kolonek telling the LA Times how the band got their name, saying, "I was reading a magazine called Wired and there was a reference to these guys in India called Dishwallas. They are entrepreneurs who sell cable television programs to culturally deprived areas in India. Apparently India only has one channel, but now Santa Barbara is one of the most popular shows, so we dropped the H and became Dishwalla," he'd say. According to the LA Times, the band would enter a Yamaha-sponsored Battle of the Bands contest in Los Angeles and ended up taking a $1,000 prize. Pendergast would tell the paper, "We entered an LA contest and we won. We still play down there once or twice a month. It's important to impress them in LA. If we get signed, it will be because we play in LA. Packing up all the stuff, then driving home from the Troubadour in the middle of the night can be tough. I think we've all driven off the road before," he'd say. The band would eventually land a deal with A&M Records thanks to their manager. It would be Dishwalla's manager who gave the group's demo tape to a lawyer, who then passed it on to the A&R people at A&M who liked the tape. By strange coincidence, the band happened to have a gig at Club Lingerie in LA the same week, and a rep from A&M who was in attendance that night signed them on the spot. In a strange twist of fate, it would be the band The Carpenters and a 20-year-old song that got Dishwalla on the radar of a lot of people. The members of Dishwalla were fans of The Carpenters, and shortly after they signed to A&M Records, but before they began work on their debut record, they read an LA Times article about a tribute album being assembled. J.R. Richards, according to Westword, wanted to participate in the project for two reasons. He loved The Carpenters growing up, and producer Matt Wallace, who was also linked to the project, had worked with one of Richards' favorite groups, The Replacements, as well as frontman Paul Westerberg. The tribute album was already finished, but Dishwalla didn't know that, and they would record a cover of Close to You and send it to Wallace. However, the Cranberries, who were also on the album, already did a cover of the song, but Wallace was so impressed with Dishwalla that he pushed back the release of the record so the band could be included on the compilation. They would cut a cover of It's Gonna Take Some Time, and Dishwalla at this point hadn't even released an album yet, and they were already in good company on the tribute album, appearing alongside Sonic Youth, Babes in Toyland, and Cracker. Richards would tell Westword, "We were sort of surprised by the success of the album, but we probably shouldn't have been. Everyone has rediscovered the Carpenters, it's kind of a big fad," he'd say. Dishwalla's cover of It's Gonna Take Some Time would be put out as the second single on the album, with Richards telling Westword, "We had begun recording Pet Your Friends when the song was getting a lot of airplay, and we'd be driving back and forth to the studio and hear ourselves on the radio like 4 or 5 times a day," he'd say. Despite the tribute album's success in marketing the band, Dishwalla's debut record would be delayed. Ahead of the album's release, the band was on the road with Better Than Ezra when they were notified by their label that the album was pushed back by 7 months. Rodney Browning would be interviewed by Cryptic Rock, where he looked back at this point in time saying, "We were crushed and thought our label was shelving us. They said, 'No, we're going to keep you on the road, keep learning your craft and pounding the pavement.' We were destroyed, but it ended up being a great thing because we got our road chops," he'd say. The group's debut album, Pet Your Friends, would be released in August of 1995, and while 5 singles would be put out, it would be the third one, counting Blue Cars, that finally caught on. The single would be released in February of 1996, nearly 6 months after the group's first album came out, and Counting Blue Cars also appeared in the movie Empire Records. Another hit song on that film soundtrack would be the Gin Blossoms' Till I Hear It From You. Side note guys, I've done a whole video on the career of the Gin Blossoms, the link is down below. Counting Blue Cars, which served as the band's only hit song off the record and of their entire career, would top the Billboard rock charts. It would take the group's album 10 months to appear on the Billboard Heatseekers charts and another 2 months to appear on the Billboard 200 charts. The success of the album can be attributed to the multi-format success of Counting Blue Cars. In addition to appearing on the rock charts, it also made appearances on the pop and adult top 40 charts, and Billboard magazine awarded the single Rock Song of the Year for 1996. Apart from the song's chart success, the lyrics were also notable because of the line, "Tell me all your thoughts on God, because I'd really like to meet her." The song would paint a picture of God as a woman and not a man. J.R. Richards would tell Billboard magazine the inspiration behind the band's hit song, revealing how he was sitting with a kid who lived next door to him, who had 2 mothers. He would tell the magazine, "We were counting the number of blue cars passing by. It was a little kid thing to do, like skipping cracks in the sidewalk. David started asking me questions about God, but he referred to God as she. So it made me think about how ideas are spoon-fed to you when you were young." The song was originally titled "Tell Me All Your Thoughts," and JR would admit to Songfacts that green is his favorite color, not blue, but the color blue fit the song better. As for the rest of the album, Richards would tell the LA Times, "I'm kind of a dark romantic person, with most of the songs discussing the corruption of impressionable and innocent children. Fan favorite Charlie Brown's Parents represents a communication breakdown and his criticism of religion, while Miss Emma Peel explored Richards' teenage crush on the TV show The Avengers." As for the album's cover, it would come from an issue of Life magazine from 1948. That issue of the magazine told a story of a 17-year-old girl who befriended a deer who she met while swimming. JR would tell the LA Times, "You could never get away with that magazine photo now. The animal rights groups would probably go out of their minds," he'd say. The band spent nearly 3 years on the road supporting their debut album, playing alongside Goo Goo Dolls, Sheryl Crow, Letters to Cleo, and Gin Blossoms. By 1998, Dishwalla would return with their sophomore record, And You Think You Know What Life Is About. Billboard magazine perfectly summarized what the band was going through at this time, saying, "With young acts, there's a fair bit of anxiety surrounding the sophomore album. However, in Dishwalla's case, the anxiety is tenfold, considering the Santa Barbara rock band has the added pressure of following up one of the most popular tunes of 1996, Counting Blue Cars." Frontman J.R. Richards would tell Billboard magazine, "We put a lot of pressure on ourselves and we're feeling the pressure from everywhere. It's hard not to feel you have to outdo yourselves. The song was the biggest of the year, so it's hard to beat. The key for us is trying not to think too hard about it, to still be creative," he'd say. The band's second album would prove to be a much more introspective album, being shaped by their time on the road for nearly 3 years promoting their previous album. While Dishwalla had a lot of success with their debut album, their label still had one problem. Nobody knew who the guys in the band were or what they looked like. While rock and pop radio would be a big part of the marketing plan behind their sophomore effort, Larry Weintraub, the VP of A&R at A&M, would tell Billboard where they fell short previously, saying, "A conscious effort in imaging the band. That was a bit of a problem on the last album. A lot of people still don't know what the band looks like, so imaging with photos and video are key." And it wasn't just the label who knew that the band was faceless to many people, as some at rock radio felt the same. Billboard would interview the music director for KYLL, Mike Savage, who would tell the magazine, "I think what they have to do is concentrate on making the singer more of a star, more of a frontman. There's a lack of stars right now, even with bands like Matchbox 20 or Fastball. No one really knows who they are." Side note guys, I've done a whole video on the Fastball song The Way and the fascinating story that inspired the track. The link is down below. The group's second album charted in the upper echelons of the Billboard charts, but commercially it was a disappointment. Following the release of their second album, the band's business side underwent some changes. J.R. Richards would tell MTV News in 2000, "We were folded into Interscope, but it just didn't work out. When our A&R rep left, we figured we'd better go too. It took us about a year to negotiate a release." The band would soon sign to Emergent Records, which had hired the man responsible for signing Dishwalla to A&M in the first place. It was now the early 2000s, and the band had already written 2 albums worth of material, which mostly originated during their final year with Interscope. In 2002, the band would release their third album and make history at the same time, making it the first musical release to come out on both CD and DVD formats, according to Rolling Stone. The album would be followed up by their self-titled record 3 years later in 2005, their first album to not chart. It was the same year that the band would finally take a break. JR would tell Songfacts what made them decide to call it quits, saying, "Well, when I did my first solo record, I hadn't left Dishwalla. We were kind of on a hiatus because at that point 3 guys had quit the band and our label had folded. There was only 3 out of the 5 of us, so we just never seemed very motivated," he'd say. In 2008, 3 years after their breakup, the band would reunite, minus JR. The band's drummer and guitarist soon found out that their kids were going to the same school, and they both attended Tuesday night school meetings according to Surviving the Golden Age. It was at these meetings they would reminisce about the old days of the band, and this eventually led to them reforming the group without JR. Now fronting the band was vocalist Justin Fox, who worked on many other musical projects, including being an assistant recording engineer for pop star Katy Perry. JR, for his part, had now moved to England as he had a son who suffered from both autism and schizophrenia and felt that there was better medical treatment in England, according to Songfacts. Despite the band's lineup changes, those problems of knowing who was in the band crept up again, but maybe not in a bad way. Drummer George Pendergast would tell Inside Hook, "By some coincidence of bad branding and a video where you couldn't recognize us, and a song that was called something other than what it should have been, everybody knows the song and could sing along to it, and when we play it to 10,000 people, nobody knows it isn't JR singing." The band would release their latest album in 2017 with Juniper Road, and the band most recently played a live show last year. That does it for today's video, guys. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like button and subscribe, and we'll see you again in Rock and Roll True Stories. Take care.